Well, good afternoon, tubers, neighbors, comrades, friends, associates, distant relatives. Exxon, Exxon Research. So you can go find a lot of articles about Exxon's role in denying climate change. I don't know that they were denying it. I do know they weren't helping the conversations at all. They put more money into paying public speakers, influencers, let's call them, that the science wasn't very good, but it was their friggin' science. So, yes, they knew about atmospheric pollution back in the 80s. They had been studying all of these sciences, earth sciences, for decades. So, where do I, little old me, and Exxon Production Research cross paths? I worked for a company as a field service engineer on optical emission spectrometers. You're more than welcome to go look up what those are, what they do. It's elemental analysis. It the parts per million, parts per billion levels. The instrument was used to identify trace materials in groundwaters across North America, and then they'd go drill a hole 10 miles away and see if those materials had reached the next well site. This is how they mapped the aquifers, the water flows underground and above ground across North America. I never saw more than North America, but you know they've got more than North America now. So the articles coming out about Exxon's denial and role in denying and really misleading their shareholders as to what was going on. This was intentional. This is the tobacco trials. This is the fact tobacco had isotopes in it, still does in some cases, that cause cancer. But that was not mentioned in the tobacco trials, in the articles, in the discussions. Strontium 90, it's a known biological uptake thingy for tobacco. It enjoys it for whatever reason, it doesn't know better. And then we get to enjoy it on our cigarette break. So this stuff's still around. This stuff's still tested for. So we do some pretty cool science. Exxon did some way cool science. While I was there, they were installing a Cray supercomputer, a gift from the USGS budget that they were given to go forth and do science for the United States of America. Not a person, not an individual, not a corporate person, or, well, oops, I guess there were persons involved, weren't they? So Exxon did this. I was in the lab in the early 80s speaking with their chemists, analytic chemists, for analyzing materials in water using plasma sampling. Very detailed, very specific methodologies to even get the sample ready to run. So these folks knew what they were doing. They had the funding to do it, and they had white coats on, so they knew what they were doing. Inside of this was that groundwater research. They ended up using man-made contaminants to track these pollutants or to track these aquifers. When they got into the water, they found stuff there from man that wasn't natural. They could identify it quickly, and now they knew in the next well 100 miles away they're drilling to test for that constituent, to see how far it traveled, to see how much is there, to see how fast it traveled. These things make predictive tools for pollution plumes because dilution doesn't work. Dilution is a fallacy. It's like the zero harm claims. So, I've written to one of the authors of one of these articles with a brief note. I have in the past written to my senators regarding this, not very effectively, so that's going to happen again. But this was only a few days in my time. This was maybe 3 to 5 days of time, because that's how long it takes when you work on this instrument to do things. You have to let them down. They're under a vacuum, right? as close to zero atmospheres as you can get, because you're looking at light, and light doesn't like stuff in the way. So that's spectrometry. Spectrometry goes back to the 1800s when we discovered that burning things changed the light of colors coming from a flame. We burnt stuff to learn things. That's what we do. We learn and we make things better. America could have the best mass transit system on the planet and something to brag about. Rail is the most efficient way to get around, period. These airplanes are part of what's killing us. I flew. Hey, I don't want anyone not to be able to fly, but not to be able to use better mass transit, have it as an option, is a crime. At this point in our understanding, our cost benefit studies, our risk analysis, the cost per mile for transporting goods is still better by rail than most other forms of transport, including people. So, Exxon, it's not the gas station down the street. Protesting them does little. Protesting lazy, vagrant politics, I think, is, I don't know. I got nothing else because it's all politics. Vote, use your adult voice. The earth was never flat. Carry on. Peace out, folks.